Back. This is Morning News today on eNCA. Now, wealthy businessmen and politicians have gathered in Switzerland for the World Economic Forum, which starts tomorrow. Calls have been made for world leaders to narrow the gap between the rich and the poor. According to research done by anti-poverty charity Oxfam, the wealthiest 1% is going to own more than 50% of the world's wealth by 2016. Well, to discuss this further, we're joined in the studio by Oxfam South Africa's Economic Justice Manager, Rashmi Mistry. Rashmi, good morning and thank you very much for coming in. And all the best for you for 2015.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, your report, I mean, this is a report you do regularly. This current one, the latest, what does it actually tell you? How bad is the gap now in terms of inequality in the world?
It is bad and it's getting worse. Over the last 30 years, inequality has grown. The gap between rich and poor has grown, and so the figure that you just talked about, if the trends continue as they are at the moment, then by 2016 we'll have just 1%, that's 70,000 people in the world, earning the same wealth as the rest of us. That's just 1%. At the moment, it's the figures are that there's just 80 people in the world that own the same wealth as half the population.
That's just incredible.
It's staggering.
Where is the world going wrong? I mean, where have we gone wrong to have such a gap? We have such a tiny minority. I mean, what, 6-something billion people on this planet?
Yeah, 7 billion people on this planet now. Absolutely. And, you know, there are many rules and regulations in place that ensure that the rich and powerful keep on getting richer and more powerful. And that's what we are particularly concerned about, because inequality, certainly from our research and other people's research, including people like the World Bank, say that countries that have high levels of inequality find it harder to tackle poverty. So in order to eradicate poverty, we must address inequality.
Well, the South African government and the ruling party, the ANC, has identified poverty as one of the priorities. Now, our Gini coefficient currently, I think we top the G20 countries in the world. We've got the highest. So our gap is so big, and it has become wider, apparently, since 1994.
Absolutely. Our research last year said that just two people in South Africa earn the same income as half of the population. So you can see the extent of inequality here. Meanwhile, we have 1 in 4 people that are facing hunger. We have people that don't have access to water, sanitation, basic health services. So, you know, there is something that's not working.
You said, Rashmi, it's going to become harder. You know, before we talk about what could not be working, you said it's going to become harder for countries that have got poverty issues and where the gap is big to really deal with poverty issues. We are one of those countries in South Africa. How would you think we should be addressing the issues that are facing us?
There are a number of ways. Certainly, whilst the World Economic Forum is on, one of our biggest calls is to address global taxation. For example, corporations don't pay enough tax, and many of them get away with it. They're allowed to take money out of the country, which should be taxed here, but isn't. That means that the government is deprived of millions of rands of income. So that's something to address. Taxation for individuals as well. SARS figures themselves suggested that out of the top 7,000 or so top earners in the country, only 360 of them were paying their fair share of tax. So those sorts of things need to be addressed. We also need to look at issues like wages. A living wage, a minimum wage is now out for debate. We need to think about, you know, can they raise the income to ensure that everyone is surviving on a decent amount of income. And those sorts of things must be combined with better services. So social protection, we need to think about how to better target social
and better
protection.
Deployment of the tax money that is being paid by the government. So you must really get rid of corruption, you must get rid of mismanagement of public funds. That goes hand in hand, not just collecting the revenue.
Absolutely, and we need absolute transparency and accountability within government. And that is really a partnership between government and society itself, because government need to be transparent in order that people, citizens, can hold them to account, can see how the government is spending money and hold them to account. And similarly with companies as well, they need to come on board and ensure that they are paying their fair share of taxes, they are paying their workers decent wages. They also need to come on board.
A lot has to be done, and it's going to be a partnership, and everybody must work together towards fighting poverty and inequality. Thank you very much. That's Oxfam's Economic Justice Manager, Rashmi Mistry.